We're going into week 7, and last week has got to be one of the weirdest weeks and one of the strangest, crazy weeks in the entirety of the NBL history. We had several games that occurred last week. One of them was the Panthers and the Browns game, and the Panthers won by over 150 points in that game. There were 3 breakers broken in that one, all by one single player. Misty Long, current player for the Panthers. Got that right. Scored a grand total of 124 points in that game. She's a rookie, so not only she broke 2 records. For the context of how those points scored by an NBL player in the game all season long. She's also scored the most 4-pointers in a single game. Now, granted, it makes sense now that she's being paid $12,000 in the context of coins, but in context, she's a rookie. She also has the record, almost has the record for the most points scored in a single season by a rookie. She's currently at 437 points. The current record is 497 points. So we have a little bit to go for it. Let's go on and get started looking for this last week. Second, I think I figured everything out. So back off week 7, which I said was absolutely insane that she scored that many points in the given week, scoring 124 points. NBL record, and she's also one of the better players. She was drafted as the #1 pick, I believe, during the original series. I think I can confirm that. In round 1, she was the number one pick, and she is going crazy at this point in time. The number 1 pick is actually means she's actually proved herself to be the number 1 pick. Going on to last week, we had a couple of games. We had the Pirates start off against the Pirates versus the Hawks. It was a pretty one-sided game with the Hawks dominating the majority of that game. The Hawks won that game by a ton. Tigers played the Bears. Tigers were able to come up and win that game. We had the Texans and the Jets. It was pretty one-sided for most of that game. Jets won that game as well. Ours were able to demolish the Stars in the end. As I said, the Panthers and Browns played. It was 248 to 48. So it was almost. It was just slightly. It was like 199 points. So it was a ton. It was a huge game for that portion right now. We have the Saints and the Knights. Saints did win that game. It did take into overtime to get to that one to work out for it. We have the Legends and Falcons. No surprises there. The Falcons are unable to. Its Legends won that game 109 to 34. The Cardinals and Bulldogs. Cardinals did really well. Were able to win that game. Almost won by 50 points. The Foxes and Kings. The Kings ended up losing that game in the close to the very end, with a last-second shot with the Foxes winning that game. Foxes were favored in that game. Kings were picked in context to win that game, but they didn't win overall. We had the Giants and the Dragons. Pretty tough game. It was pretty one-sided. The Giants did not do anything towards the end of the second half. It was pretty close. At the beginning of the game, the Giants were doing really well, and they just kind of got knocked over at the end of the half. So the Giants won that game after the Dragons just couldn't do anything going for it. Indians and Ravens, no surprises there. Indians won that game, although it was fairly good. It was a fairly close game. Lynx and the Huskies. Indians were not favored in that game. The Huskies are favored in that game. I didn't. Not, but as you can see, the Lynx did win that game by quite a bit, and I think it was confirmed here. The Lynx were only favored by 3, and the Lynx, it was only 3 points that were favored for the Huskies. The Huskies ended up losing that game, though. The Athen did pretty well. It's going to demolish the Athen, who currently have no wins going into the season. We had the Leland Cats and the UNC. Yeah, so Cats versus Cats, and the Leland Cats won that game in a pretty one-sided game. Supermen versus Packers. Supermen demolished the Packers in the end of that game. Warriors and Chargers. It was a close game all game. Warriors end up winning that game. Angels and Dogs. Angels end up beating the Dogs at the very end of that game. Lightning beat the Colts at the end, also in overtime. And then we had the Bengals and the Lions. Tough game. Lions end up winning that game. And finally, we had the Werewolves and Dolphins. Dolphins just had a pretty big second half to win that game. And that's what happened this last week. I believe I have about 17 wins, I believe. But we're going to say that is where the current standings are, with me having say 7 correct, 23 incorrect. Dog currently have the lowest with 64 and 36. Let's go ahead and talk about the teams that are in the worst position. The teams that are probably not making playoffs. We got a long way to go before that occurs. I believe I have to mark these. I didn't mark the other ones, but the only Cats are currently the number 1 seed. The Jets are the number 5 seed, unfortunately. The Lions are the number 2. The Otters are in there for seed number 6. Superman currently, I believe, are there at number 5. Currently, they're number 3. The Lynx are number 7. The Dolphins currently they're seed, they're number 4, and the Huskies are number 8 at this current time. So this is how close it is, though. This is how it works out for right now. If the playoffs were to occur today, these two teams would be into the playoffs. Currently, it would be the Panthers, the Saints. Let's see if I can get the thing corrected there. Yeah. But this is tough. We have quite a few undefeated teams. We got 5 undefeated teams currently at this given time. Now, there's no teams that are eliminated as of yet. But there's some teams that are looking pretty bad. When it comes to it, the teams in the NBL that I could say are probably not making the playoffs right now, we got all 3 of these teams. None of them making the playoffs. I don't think it had any of them making the playoffs, period. On the context, they're just not really in a position where they're going to make playoffs. Now, I believe I did make a prediction, and I did have the Panthers making the playoffs as a wild card. They are currently in the, and I think honestly all their games the harder games are all in later in the season, so I'm not surprised about them. I, however, had the Falcons as the number 3 seed, and they're already not going to get even close to what they have right now. I had Panthers going 13-3, and currently they have not won a game yet, so they're probably not going to get there. They're not getting the 13. They're not going to get that seed. That's prediction for that one I have here. So then I had the prediction for the Tigers. They're currently undefeated, so they're in a good position right now. They're 3rd seed right now, but they're not mans. I will say this: I had the Ravens making the playoffs. Well, that ain't happening. The Ravens are all the way down in the very bottom spot. And now I also had the Hawks and Giants making the playoffs. Giants are currently not in the playoffs, and the Hawks are in the playoffs currently. So both of those teams are pretty good position. On the other side, we have the ABL. I had Lily Cats number 2 seed, not number 1 seed. They're currently number 1 seed. I also had the Huskies. Huskies are currently number 8 seed, so they're barely in the playoffs right now. I had the Warriors. They are kind of in the right position, so they're just out of the playoffs right now. I had the Otters, who are currently in the playoffs as the number 6 seed, which is not exactly where I put them. The Werewolves, yeah, they're not making the playoffs. They're 0-6. they're not making the playoffs off the context is. I had the Lions making the playoffs. Lions are currently in the position. They're in the 2nd seed. And I had the Packers. Packers are around here in 0-6. So clearly I'm missing about 4 teams that I'm thinking that I thought were going to make the playoffs that are clearly not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to do it at this time. So in my opinion, these teams that I have predicted it's going to be wrong. I think about half of them are going to be right and half of them are going to be completely wrong. Now let's talk about the teams that are in the best position. Overall, Panthers are in the best position by far. I do not think they're going to be the number 1 seed, unfortunately. Still, after all of that, there's still some games they have that are going to be really hard. They've got to play the Knights twice at the very end of the season. They've got to play the Dogs at least one more time, which they absolutely demolished them the first time they played them. and they have to play the Saints. All 3 games. I feel that they have a possibility of losing all 4 of those games. I'm going to say they win 2 of those games, lose 2 of those games, which may not put them in the number 1 seed. But I think what's going to happen is that last game against the Knights is going to be what decides who is going to be division leader between the Cardinals and the Panthers and the Knights. The Cardinals, I'm surprised about, and they've actually done really well. Panthers, however, will play them, I believe, next week. No, they will play them next. They still play them this week. But it comes down to the context here. There's a lot of things. I have to update all this stuff still, so that's why I'm not showing the bracket for this. And that's going to be a really good. Now, another team I think is really hard, is really good, is the Tigers. Tigers are a great position. I currently had them predicted at 13-3. I think that's a good chance they still end up being 13-3. However, I predicted them losing against the Bears. I predicted them losing against the Huskies and losing against the Dragons. I have not had them lose any of the games. So I actually had them losing games that are currently happening. I believe they play the Bears going into next week, which we'll get into talk about in a little bit here. So I think, honestly, my prediction is probably going to be pretty accurate. The Saints are the other team. Now, Saints, I can tell you right now, I have no confidence in the Saints doing worse. They're doing way better than they're actually supposed to. Looking for the Saints here. I think I don't think I had the Saints as last. Well, they're already twice as many wins as I predicted. I had them going 1-7 in the division. But I think, if you look back, I do have a few of the first games. They already lost. They won week 1 against the Saints. And the other game, I believe they got the Angels. They won that game as well. They've had also a really tough opponent. They have the Jets joining us last week. They have the 8th and the Legends are both really easy games. So, to my opinion, it's going to be, because I do think that they're going to be one of the tougher teams. I don't really know for sure. I think there's probably going to be 1 or 2 games that they'll probably end up losing later in the season. I had them losing against the Knights and New England Cats. Also had them going against Warriors, but that's not happening. So I think they're going to lose 2 games this entire season. I think they might beat the Panthers, which they do play. Oh, I had them wrong. I'm looking at the wrong one. I was looking at the wrong one. I actually am losing a lot more games, but I have them losing. I would say I have them losing against the Knights. I think that makes sense. And losing against the New England Cats. But I think they're going to beat the Panthers. And honestly, I feel like this record that I have them at, I think they're going to go approximately 12-6. That's my prediction. We have the New England Cats and the Jets. The New England Cats are around here, aren't they? Let's see. I think the New England Cats and Jets are going to be fighting for the top of the division still. They have not played each other yet. I think they do play. They play in the very last 2 weeks. So I feel like those last 3 weeks are going to decide everything. So in my opinion, this could go either way. And to me, I think either one of these teams is could win the division. I think it's going to really come down to what that last game is in the end for that one to occur. So I'm going to say it's going to either be the New England Cats or the Jets to win the division. I'm not really sure the Lions are going to make the playoffs on the context here. 8th and the Werewolves are both not making the playoffs. They're too far. We got the ABL South. They're all really going to have a hard time to figure out who's going to win this division because they're all innovators. I mean, even the Warriors are in the position right now. I think the Lions are probably in the best position, but I can easily see the Otters or the Lynx doing it. But it comes down to me. I think it's going to be very tough. I favor the Lions winning the division right now, but it's going to be really close between all those games. I think it really comes down to, if I look at this correctly, I have the wrong one. It really honestly comes down to the ABL South, which is done. And that's just not the South. This is not the ABL South, I don't think. But I think with all those, this is really going to come down to the wire because the Otters and Lions played twice in the last 3 weeks. And in that time period, I mean, this is going to be very tough because in context, the Otters also play against the Lions in that time period. So, Otters and Lions play at 2 times. Lynx and Warriors play 2 times. I think this division is really up for grabs. Who is going to actually win the division off of that one? And to be honest, at the current time, I can't really say it. Currently, I favor it being the Lions, but it could be any of the 4 teams. ABO West, I believe. Yeah, so this one's really tough because also really one of those divisions that's kind of up in the air. I think it's going to end up being the Superman to win this one because of the context that their last couple weeks are really easy. They've got to play the Stars twice, and to me, those 2 games are really good to decide. I think that the Superman will win both of those games, which will put them in. They've got UNC as well, which is the easier team as well to do. I still have Superman winning this division. I think honestly the Huskies could do it, but I think it's going to end up being at the end of the series that the Superman or the Huskies will win the division. Normally, I would say in the ABL East, which is the last division, I think I have the wrong one marked here. And to me, it's really going to be a toss-up between the Bobcats and the Dolphins. The Bobcats and Dolphins do play twice in the very end of the season. And I think those 2 games will decide everything about this game. To me, this could go either way. And in my opinion, I think those 2 games are going to decide who wins the division. Unfortunately, I don't think the Colts are going to get close to it. I don't think UNC is going to do it. UNC and the Techs play too much in the last weeks. The Techs are already kind of out of the playoffs anyways. But with UNC and Cooks playing in the last couple of weeks, UNC is going to win those games, but it's not going to be good enough to get into the playoffs. All right. Now that we've talked about all of those who I think is going to make it, let's talk about Week 7. I've already done some predictions for all of those. We got the Angels and Knights. That is honestly going to be an interesting game for me. And the Angels did win this last week, but they won against the Dogs. I'm picking the Knights this week due to the fact that I think the Knights are a much better team. Cardinals and Panthers, not 100% confident in this, but I do think the Panthers win this game. That's what I have to say on that one. the Dogs and Chargers. Chargers are going to demolish the Dogs. The Dogs can't seem to get anything going correct for them, so I will say it's going to be the Chargers that win this game. Fox and Giants. This game is going to be a really big nail biter. And to me, it could go either way to me. So I'm going to say it's going to be a really close game. I'm going to pick the Foxes winning this game. It is going to be a very tough game. Foxes are favored in this game, though. So that's why I'm going to go with them. The Kings and the Knights is a really, really tough game. Kings and Knights. It's Kings and Hawks. Based on what I'm looking at for this one, the Kings and that's a really tough one. The Hawks are both of them are about a very good both of them are very good offenses. The Kings have a better defense overall, so I'm gonna go with the Kings winning this game. Ravens Tigers. I mean, unfortunately, there's just no chance that the Ravens can win this game. They're just not getting anything going. They're currently 0-6. It's not going to be for them. I have the Stars and Chargers. Something's wrong here. Let me check something here because that's not correct. Who are the Stars playing in Week 7? I have Stars playing the Chargers. And who are the Dogs playing? Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, I have the... Okay. Clearly have something messed up a little bit here because the Dogs are playing the Legends during this week. Doesn't make a difference to me because that changes a little everything for it. Because that does mean everyone thinks that the Legends are going to win this game. We got the Stars and Chargers game. Tough one, honestly, in my opinion. I'm going to pick the fact that the Stars are going to be over it. I'm going to say that the Stars win this game. It's going to be a tough game. Alright, we got the Indians and Pirates. I'm going to say right now this is a very tough one for me to say that the Indians are going to actually lose this game. I'm taking the Indians to win this game. Bears and Dragons. One of those games I thought maybe earlier this season I would have thought the Bears would absolutely demolish them, and unfortunately they're going to demolish them. The Dragons are just not good right now. The Dragons currently, I think, have one win. They're 1-5. The Bears are a whole lot better in the context. Packers and Ours could have been considered the game of the week. It is not one. Yeah, it's going to be a very tough one. I'm picking the Ours to win this game. We have Lightning and Werewolves. I will pick the Lightning, and I'm going to join them. The game of the week will be... Tell me in a second, please. Okay. Don't know why that's the game of the week. But anyways, we have the Falcons and Bulldogs. Pretty fair to me. It says the Bulldogs to win this game. UNC and the Jets, according to this. the Jets are heavily favored in that game. The Browns and Saints, everyone picking the Saints. There's no contest there for me. Browns just got demolished by the Panthers by almost 200 points. New England Cats and Ethan. Again, it's going to be the New England Cats to win this game. Colts and the Bobcats. That's a tough one as well, along with the Dolphins and Tex. Same thing. I think I'm just going to feel the favorite here because there's no real contest. The Huskies and the Beagles, I believe, is what we have. Is that the game of the week? No. Oh, okay. Yeah. We have the Huskies and Beagles. I'm going to pick the Beagles here. I do think that it's going to be a very tough game. We have the Warriors and Lions, which is currently considered the game of the week. And I think honestly that's a fair game of the week for it. They're in the same division, and honestly that could be the flip division leaders. I'm gonna go ahead and say the Lions win this game. And we have the Superman and the Lynx. It's gonna be a tough one for me to say that the Lynx are gonna win this game. It's very tough to say that. I think the Supermen are gonna be here. I'm gonna pick the Supermen. I think, to be honest, it's a tough one between the Supermen and the Lynx. That one's gonna go either way. I'm gonna go with Superman winning this game. That's my predictions for this week. And we'll see you guys back here week number 8. And let's just say we'll see if we have any more records breaking next week.